Hello and welcome to the Wicker Library. My name is Aaliyah. So happy to have you here with us today. We recently hit 300 subscribers, which was very exciting. My goal for 2024 was actually to hit 200 subscribers. So the fact that we've already reached 300 makes me really happy, and it's nice to know that people are enjoying me and wanting to stick around. And I wanted to do a book tag because I haven't done one in a while, and I found a Reader Time Capsule book tag by Jesse the Reader. At least his video was the first that I saw of it, and he also recently shouted out my channel, so I know that's why a good amount of new people have shown up and, given me a chance. So I'm super grateful to that. I've always loved Jesse's content, and so Jesse, if you're watching this, you're cool. And I wanted to do your book tag because it's a banger of a book tag, and I would love to have just a reader time capsule and be able to look back on how my reading taste has changed, how it's evolved, what I've been loving, and yeah. So let's just get into some questions. Question number one is a book that has impacted you the most. And I recently did a video actually on basically all of the books that have impacted me and made me love reading, which I'll link, of course. So I want to talk about a book I didn't mention in that video, but that still really impacted me, and that is They Can't Kill Us Until They Kill Us by Hanif Abdurraqib. And this book is phenomenal. I've talked about it a good amount on my channel, but if you don't know, it's an essay collection, and Hanif Abdurraqib just has such a masterful way of crafting and using sentences to just elicit so much feeling, even if you don't care about the subject matter. All of these essays have to do with music and some artist or some musician or something like that. And I love music, obviously, but a lot of the artists that he writes about I either didn't really know or didn't care too much about previously, but the way he writes, he makes you care so deeply about everything and every word, and it is just so phenomenal, and it really changed the way that I pick up books. I hadn't picked up many essay collections, and now I love a good essay collection, and that was one of the first that I read that I really, really loved. And so I have that to thank this book for. But I also just felt so inspired to write essays and creative nonfiction after reading this, and I think that was really cool. I love to be inspired to write when I read, and this book is just so well received. It's talked about a good amount on booktube, at least channels that I follow, but oh my god, I think it still needs more people talking about it because it's so good. And his second essay collection, which is all about basketball, which I don't care about basketball, but I absolutely adored that book, and I think he is just such a talent, and I need to read everything that Hanif Abdurraqib writes. Question two is a book that you've loved most recently. And this one's pretty easy. I've talked about it a little bit, and that is The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina by Zoraida Córdova. This book was so good, okay? If you love multiple generations telling a story with so much magic and mystery and intrigue and character dynamics and family drama. It is so good, okay? It is so perfect for that. It follows Orquídea Divina, who is the matriarch of this family, and she has sent out an invitation to all of her extended family saying that she's dying and that they should all come back home and collect their inheritance from her. And it gets very weird, it gets very mystical, it also gets very dark, and there are so many good lines. The writing in this is just stunning, amazing, 10 out of 10. Love the writing, but also the characters. I'm obsessed with them. I think of them as real people, and you cannot tell me that Orquídea Divina is not real. She's real to me. She's real to me, and I'm in love with her, and I sobbed my eyes out at the end of this book. it deals a lot with death, obviously, and grief and family trauma and generational trauma, but it is just so fantastic. It's also rather funny. Like, some of the characters are just really funny, and the banter this family has with one another, the drama, the plot. It was all just so excellent, and I took my time with this book. It's not that long, but I read it rather slowly considering my normal pace of reading because I just wanted to savor it. I wanted to take my time with it and just revel in the world and in the magic. And this is how you write magical realism. Okay, this is just so excellent. Question 3 is, what is your current favorite mode of storytelling? So I have a bit of a ranking with things that I care about in storytelling and in books, and it usually goes characters, then writing style, then plot. So if the plot is excellent, but I don't like the writing or the characters, I don't like the book. I'm usually not going to stick with it. If I don't like the plot, but the characters are phenomenal, I can usually get into the book. But yeah, I really prize characters and character dynamics, characterization, character development. Everything involved with the characters needs to hook me. And the few times that I've loved a book that wasn't strong on characterization was because the book was beautifully written. So writing style is very high on that tier list for me because I just love lush lyrical prose, and I love when the writing itself is almost a character, if that makes sense. I like when the storytelling and the writing is an art form and has to do something with the story. Like, it feels more layered and lush and alive. Question 4 is, what is your current favorite genre? So this is always shifting, but currently I'm really loving magical realism. I have also been getting a little more into fantasy, which I've been wanting to do for so long, and I'm really happy that I'm getting into fantasy again. But I wouldn't call it my favorite genre still. I would say magical realism, weird speculative fiction that is grounded somewhat in reality, but has either a bizarre or surreal element to it. I vibe with so hard. I also really enjoy literary fiction and specifically literary short stories. I have been really enjoying short story collections and just literary fiction for sure. Next question is, what is your favorite format to read in? And I would say that my favorite format is actually audiobooks. I love to listen to audiobooks, but it has a caveat, and that is the narrator has to be really good. If I do not enjoy the narrator's voice, it doesn't even have to be personal. Sometimes I just don't like listening to certain voices. And if that's the case, I do prefer to read physically. If we're getting really specific, I prefer to read paperbacks. Sometimes I prefer to collect hardcovers, but I usually like to read a paperback if I can. And yeah, I love audiobooks. I love being able to listen to something and do something, so multitask. Granted, I can't do too many things while listening to an audiobook or I lose the story, but I do really like to play Subway Surfers when I am listening to an audiobook, and because of that, I have like an insanely high score, not to flex, but I have a very high score in Subway Surfers because I have played so much that, like, the amount of coins and stuff I've collected, I've been able to just beat out the game and last as long as I want and as long as I'm just listening to something. So I have done single runs in like just hours. So I have way too many points. Question 6 is a fun one, and that is your favorite bookmark. And I have a lot of bookmarks I love, but I wanted to include the one that is most special to me, and that is this bookmark here that my friend from elementary school gave me for my birthday in 2014. So I think it was my 10th birthday. that she gifted this to me, and it has a pressed flower and nasturtium leaf, I believe, in it, and it has a quote from the book Inkheart, which we buddy read when before I even knew buddy reading was a term. We read that book series together, and it says, "Some books should be tasted, some devoured, but only a few should be chewed and digested thoroughly." Question number 7 is, what does this year look like for you? What are some of your plans? What is the reading vibe of this year looking like? And for me, I think it's going to include a lot of graphic novels. I've just really been loving that medium of storytelling. I'm taking like a mini class on graphic novels, and it's been a lot of fun so far. So I'm using that as an excuse to get some more graphic novels to read, and I'm also wanting to get a bit more into children's fiction, specifically middle grade. I think that having a children's literature course last semester, I've just gotten obsessed again, and I think there's something so magical and necessary about children's literature, and because I also want to be a public librarian, I think it's really fun to look at what books children would be reading and what, intrigues younger kids to read and to pick books up. And it also overlaps really well with graphic novels because a lot of children's stories and middle grade stories have illustrations in them and are usually a mode of storytelling in them. And I think more adult books and even YA books need to have illustrations. I don't know why that isn't a thing anymore. I feel like chapter titles and illustrations need to become a thing again because, oh my god, it's so worth it. I love a good illustration in my story. The next question, question 8, is what is the video you're most proud of? So currently, I think I am most happy with how the reflections video, like the reflecting on 20 years of reading video I did recently, turned out. I just really liked being able to think back on my favorite childhood books, my favorite stories attached to reading, all of that, and going all the way up to my current favorite books. I think that was just really fun to reflect on, and it's rather similar to this video, to be honest. Question number 9, the final question, is what's a YouTube channel you've been loving recently? And I have 4 answers for this. So I have been watching booktube for a while, and I'm always discovering new people that I really love. But recently, like within the last 2 weeks or something, I discovered Lit Vibes with 5. I absolutely adore his channel. He only has a couple videos up, but I've watched every one. He is just so funny, and the reading, like the books that he picks out, are so interesting and so diverse in like their genres and everything, and he's just wonderful. I love watching his videos. He's so into reading and just so passionate about the books he talks about, and it radiates so much joy through the screen, and I absolutely have to recommend his channel. I also have been watching Woodland Bunny and their channel, and I adore the cozy vibes of this channel and just the editing style and the way that she reviews books also really works with my brain, and I just love it, and I would highly, highly recommend her channel. I also have to recommend Zainab. I have been watching her videos and really, really enjoying them. Her taste in books is just so much fun, and if you're looking for just content that is so well edited and just I love how concise the reviews are and how just the vibes are excellent. I cannot express how much. I have been loving that channel a lot. And the final channel I have to recommend is one I actually found yesterday but have been watching nonstop, and that is Aya's College. And I hope I'm pronouncing Aya correctly, but I just started watching her stuff, and the vibes are immaculate, okay? It is so warm and inviting and cozy, and the books she talks about I haven't really heard of before, and so there's a lot of new recommendations I've been getting, new books on my radar, and yeah, I've been having a great time. So those are some channels I recommend. I will of course link them all below, and yeah, would highly suggest checking out those people's content. So those are all of the questions. Thank you again to Jessie the Reader for creating this tag and being the one who put it on my radar. I hope you have all enjoyed. If you've gotten this far into the video, feel free to comment the little sprout emoji. And yeah, I enjoyed doing this tag. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you like me and liked this video, I guess. Be a part of the Wicker Library. We would be happy to have you with us. And yeah, until next time.